What does the bias look like for you guys as you and the staff?
Yeah, we got a lot of projects we're going to work on, and I think a lot of times it gets a little overblown. I mean, we're always on top of the self-scout and what we got to do and what people are seeing. We'll get a good jump start as we're away. Just with today, the ability to watch tape really from anywhere. So I'm gonna let the staff get out of here and just do everything on their own.
You're coming off the loss, but you're in a lot better position now than you were at this time a year ago. How much can you draw on what you were able to do late last season, and where do you need to improve to be able to kind of get in that kind of run that you did last year?
Yeah, I think that's kind of one of the things that we're going to talk about as a staff is just some of the things that we did the back half of the season to allow us to develop and continue to get better. And I think a lot of it just started with our approach to practice, how much competition we had in practice. I thought it made practices have more energy, and I thought it reflected in our play, quite frankly. So I think it's just one of the things that our staff is doing with each individual today is there's got to be a focus on one thing that we can all improve upon, because all of us can improve in some area. So that's the focus today, and I wanted our guys to know that leaving the building today, so that when they come back on Monday, that not only can they work on it on their own for the next 6 days or whatever, but when we get back and have practice next Monday, that there's got to be an intentionality behind that.
All the things yesterday that need to be cleaned up in the second half. Is it almost harder to do that and to emphasize that when you are 6-3 as opposed to a year ago you're 3-6 and the losing kind of speaks for itself?
No, I think you guys know our mentality. It's you got to go 1-0 every week, and you got to focus on just your daily process, trying to improve daily. And so I think you just always keep the focus on the task at hand, and you can't worry about the results. I think that was beneficial to us a year ago when we were sitting at 3-6. So we better take the same mindset, because things can flip in a hurry in this league if you just don't focus on the task at hand.
What do you make of where this football team is, that maybe you haven't put together your best game yet, but you've still been winning a lot of games. You've still been able to get to
Yeah, I think we've had good moments of playing good complementary football, and then we've had some not so great moments. And I think some of the mistakes maybe that we've made the last 4 games that we've won showed up yesterday against a good football team, that it's hard to overcome those in those moments. So Detroit played a clean game. I mean, when you look at it, they played a clean game. Didn't make any critical mistakes, where we had a handful of critical mistakes that really came back to bite us.
How do you determine whether to receive or defer when you win the toss?
It's kind of a gut feeling for me. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's sometimes I ask, just, hey, what's their record versus when they get the ball first, and where are we at? So I think every week's a little bit different in terms of, and I would say the last year, when you talk about the back half of last season to this year, we've been a little bit more aggressive in that approach of taking the ball, whereas previous 4.5 years, we always deferred. So I think there was something to just getting a lead. I think that, playing with the lead, it worked out. It kind of, in terms of we went down, we got 3 points on the board. Unfortunately, they were able to answer and score a touchdown. But I would say this, that every situation is a little bit different. You got to factor in a lot of different things in terms of the opponent. Where do you feel like you may have an advantage? Certainly, I do think the weather comes into play at times. So I think we take it, on a case-by-case basis.
Right. So it's not like because the last 4 times you've done it, you haven't scored a touchdown, that doesn't impact your decision to maybe not do it going forward?
It could. It very well could.
got-
Were you under center a little bit less just to try to help Jordan and not have
Yes.
him move around so much? Okay.
Where were we at yesterday? I think I said that, Rob. I'm just kidding. But I did say that, I think. It's okay.
I'll be better at
I
it.
tune myself out sometimes too, so.
Speaking of things you said yesterday, at the risk of being really annoying, now that it's not the heat of right after the game,
Thanks, Ryan.
You're welcome.
can you help me understand what the through line is for Jordan? That the same guy that threw 1 interception in the final 8 games has thrown 10 in 6.5 games?
Yeah, I would say, again, every situation's a little bit different. I think you do have to factor in the situation, though, of when you're going to play really aggressive and when you play the next play. And I think certainly in a game of just the complexion of the game yesterday, being that it was 10-3, you're in a 2-minute drive. You know, it all started with the protection. We didn't protect the right way. So there was some leakage inside that flushed him out of the pocket. I think he would agree with you that in that situation, he's just got to throw the ball away and live to play the next down. I do think that's one of his strengths is his ability to make off schedule and not wanting to give up on a play. And I admire that, but I think it's just you got to factor in the situations. There's certain times, certainly in a 2-minute drill, I would tell you is one of those times, unless it's like, you know, you're on the plus side out of field goal range and there's very few seconds left. I also think in the red area, because there was one late in the game in the fourth quarter where he probably held it a click too long and the ball got hit and it was in harm's way. And but I think every play is a little bit different. So just to make a blanket statement, I don't think that's fair.
So the interception yesterday, though, you're being aggressive there, right? I mean, the play, if it's blocked up well, you've got Reed down the field, right?
Yeah.
You have an aggressive mentality too, and you like that about
Yeah, I mean, I think every situation, here's what I tell you. I thought we were protecting pretty well. I thought he was having time to progress through the reads, and you know, they brought a pressure. I mean, it was a good look. We call it a coffee house, where they had 2 backers mugged up in the A gaps. They had Joseph down on the weak side, and they brought 4 to the weak side. And basically the backer bluffed like he was going to drop, and then he came. And so we got fooled on the protection. But I felt like, and it was a longer developing play. Obviously, if I had to go back in time, I would rather have a quick hitter and just get the ball out of our hands and then get on the ball and play the next play. But, you know, I thought our protection was pretty good. I thought we had a chance to dial something up down the field. And obviously, you know, hindsight's 20/20, but it didn't work out very well. And that was obviously a pivotal play in the game when you think about, okay, usually you're thinking, at least what I was thinking was worst case scenario, it's 10-3 at halftime, and they get the ball, knowing that they get the ball. And then they went down. We had a critical penalty. They go down and score. And so instead of worst case scenario being 17-3, now you're down 24-3. And that is, it was obviously too much to overcome. That is a tough deal when you're playing a really good football team.
Last thing, so the fine line for you is you love his talent, you love his mentality, you love his aggressiveness. It's just making sure that he understands that sometimes the situation just doesn't call for all those good qualities that he has. Fair?
Yeah, I think every situation, like I said, is a little bit different.
Matt, we've obviously.
I don't know if I answered you, but
You didn't that time, no, but
that's probably a good thing. Because I'm not answering you the way I really want to answer you right now.
I want to know what that is.
No, I just, you know, he's competing. He's a competitor. You know, I think every situation's a learning experience. Unfortunately, that was a bad one, and hopefully we'll be better for it next game versus the Bears.
With Dontavian obviously gets open. He had a great year at times last year. He's had a lot of drops and stuff. What is what's the plan? How do you get him going? Or otherwise, at some point, you have to kind of fade him out of the rotation a bit, because you have other guys who are really good, obviously.
Well, we see him do it in practice. I think that's where it starts. Obviously, you want those results to correlate to the game, and I'm a big believer in practice preparation equals game reality. But I think it just comes back to the fundamentals. And hey, listen, I get it. It was a wet day, and that's never an excuse. I do think that when you look at some of the drops, we weren't being really, our fundamentals weren't necessarily right, the way we coach it and the way we drill it in terms of being aggressive with your hands, and we were allowing that ball to get in our body too much. You know, so that happened on that one kind of slant play on the 3rd and 3, and then there was another one, obviously in the end zone where the ball was certainly behind him. I just think that's a play that he's got to be able to make, and that he is certainly capable of making, and I've seen him make it.
I wasn't talking so much about yesterday as like over the course of the season, you know, whatever numbers you look at, he's #1 in drop percentage and last in catch percentage. The reward, I guess, hasn't been there overall throwing the ball to him.
Yeah, well, we got something to work on, I guess.
Man, what do you like about what you've done so far and where you're at this season?
Well, right now in the moment, there's not a lot to like, because it's just so fresh, you know. But I do think I think our guys are working hard. I think there's a lot of room for improvement, which is exciting to me. The fact that we've been able to win 6 games in various ways, I think that is a credit to our guys. I do think we got a resilient group. I never felt like yesterday, even down 24-3, I didn't feel like there was any quit in our team. I thought our team kept battling. I thought defensively, certainly we had some good moments there at the end of the game. We had, I want to say, consecutive 3 and outs. So I thought there was a lot to like. It's just, you know, when we watch the tape, I just think there was a lot of missed opportunities as well. And I don't know, how else to put it that way. But I think that's also encouraging in the fact that we've been able to find ways to win games, and we're not playing our best ball, obviously.
What have you thought of just Josh Jacobs, how he's kind of fit into your offense so far, and just kind of that first half he put together for you?
A lot of commotion around here today. Yes. One of many things.
Yeah.
Many people?
Just the first half that Josh Jacobs has had for you, just kind of the way he's fit into your offense to this point.
Yeah, I think Josh is a guy that's going to fit in anybody's offense. I just think, you know, going back to just how he goes about his process, he's a pro's pro. You see it every day. He's the same guy every day in his approach, how he approaches practice, how locked in he is, what kind of teammate he is. He's got great work habits, whether it's on the practice field, in the weight room, wherever, in the training room. He's about his business, and he does a great job. So I think then you watch his play style. I think we can all agree that the way he plays the game the right way. He runs with a mentality. He's a tough guy to bring down, and I think he's done a great job in both the run game and in the pass game. I've seen his improvements in our pass protections. He's done a good job out of the backfield catching the ball. So I can't say enough great things about him.
I only asked this since I saw a scooter at his locker. Did Musgrave have surgery, and is he going to be back this season?
He will hopefully be back later this season.
Surgery on the ankle.
Can I confirm or deny that? Yes, he did.
Okay.
Coaches always say the bye comes at a good time, but there's obviously been years where it didn't come at an ideal time during your tenure. Is this perfect, though, in terms of splitting up the season? You got some guys that are pretty nicked up, especially your quarterback.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, I try not to read into that too much. I mean, the bye is the bye, the schedule is the schedule. You just adapt to whatever it is. And but I think for us, the only thing that is hard is to go on a bye after a loss, because this loss will sit with you for a long time. So We got a lot to think about, I would say, over the next 13 days before we play again, or until we get really into, the Chicago Bears. But it is what it is, and I think there's, like I said earlier, there's a lot of things that we all have to collectively work on an individual basis in order to get us to be a better football team.
I don't know if this is something that you'll kind of uncover in the self-scout or if you have a good feeling on it already, but the penalties, what's your sense on why they continue to happen? It's not like you coach it that way, obviously, so what?
No, Ryan, we're not coaching penalties. A lot of it goes into those buckets. Some of them are just lack of focus when you're talking about the pre-snap penalties. We've had far too many of those, and it's unfortunate because we want to be able to use our cadence on offense, and conversely on the D line. I mean, you got to key the ball, especially when you're at home and there's a lot of crowd noise. I mean, really, it doesn't matter, home or away. You got to key the football. They got us yesterday in a critical situation where I don't think they were going to run a play, and we jumped off sides and it allowed them to go for it, and they made a play on 4th down. I mean, that was a good throw and a good catch, a good route by Amon-Ra. But it was a critical play in the game. You're talking about a 4-point play. And then you have some penalties that are just, when you play with poor fundamentals, they tend to happen. If we get hands outside our framework, whether it's, or if we take if you're an offensive lineman, you take a poor set, you get beat inside, sometimes you get a holding penalty, whatever it may be. Just those technical errors. And then you have the ones that are completely unacceptable, and it better be pretty clear to our team is just what I deem as the selfish penalties. John getting an unsportsmanlike, those cannot happen. I take those very personally. The way I told them is those are on me. That's on me, because I put you in a position to get that. So next time that happens, you can take your helmet and come stand right next to me, and we'll watch the game together.
Tomorrow's the trade deadline. Do you and Goody talk about needs, wants, wishes, and is there any expectation or excitement on your end that something could happen tomorrow?
I'll let Goody talk to you guys tomorrow at 4:30.
You guys talk about it at all, though? I mean, or are you just so ingrained in the day-to-day of a game that you don't really get at it?
We communicate, yes.
I don't know if I've covered a coach that says, it starts with me, I've got to do a better job more than you have in the last 5+ years. You just did it again with the selfish penalties. So when you're self-scouting yourself, what are the things that you want to do coming out of the bye that you'll feel better about you doing better?
Are you talking about me personally?
You know?
Yeah, I think just making sure that, to me, it always starts at the top, and then I got to make sure that all our coaches are on the same page in regards to what we're trying to get out of each and every individual on our football team, how we're helping them become better players, not only better players, but better people, hopefully, along the way, being more accountable to the team. So I think there'll be a lot of reflection, I would say, over the next 6 days of just things that we can potentially explore to try to push our team to be better, and whether it's in practice, whether it's how we do certain meetings, what are we emphasizing to the team. There's always room for improvement.
You were tough on yourself last year, and then you said, you told Jordan to let it rip, and then you let it rip as a play caller, and you saw the success you had. Is that part of the equation too?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think every game's a little bit different. Again, last night's fresh. I think there were a couple situations, like I was upset that I had to burn a timeout on a short yardage call that obviously got stuffed, so that was a bad timeout. Credit to Detroit. They did a few things that kind of kept us a little bit off balance. So to me, it always starts with a plan and trusting your plan. And so you got to make sure your plan is a better plan so you don't get caught in those situations. You know, you try to comb through it each and every week. I feel like our process, and I'm talking about myself as a play caller, has gotten better over the years. Certainly feel like there's very few instances where I feel like totally caught off guard. So when those moments happen, it's kind of like you want to smack yourself in the face because you don't want them to happen, because you put your team in a bad spot, because those timeouts are, especially in the second half. I've told you guys this, I think, before. The first half, a little more freedom with the timeouts. If we have a bad play call, I don't have a problem popping a timeout. But in the second half, you absolutely have to do everything in your power to conserve those timeouts, because you just never know when you're going to need them.